the FNL Network talk show.
Welcome to the FNL Network. I'm your host today, Bettina Skye, and we have my co-hosts, Eugenia, Geoffrey, and Marianne. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. So excited to talk to you about a variety of different topics today. So I guess we'll just get right into it, and I will ask my first question, and we'll see what everyone has to say. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Sounds great.
So what I was thinking of, like, the issue of gender has been coming up quite a lot. And my question is kind of twofold with this gender question. One has to do with gender in sports. Should there still be like male and female teams? And is that the same thing as when it comes to something like award shows, like actor award shows? I know that very recently there was a non-binary actor, actress / actress, I guess, who refused to be nominated because the system of the Academy, I guess it was the Tony Awards, the system of the Tony Awards, you have to choose if you want to be an actor or an actress, and that just seemed kind of unfair. And so this person was like, I don't want to be nominated until you change around the category. So it's kind of like a double question, which are kind of similar yet very different. And I want to hear everyone's opinion. Let's start with Eugenia.
You saw my big smile, right? I'm so passionate about it because I am an actor, and I always say an actor, because I think it's all about talent. It has nothing to do with your physicality or how you look or how you present yourself. And I do support, people being authentic in themselves. At the same time, I think we all do possess feminine and masculine energy, everybody of us, no matter which gender you identify with. I do have a son and a daughter, and it's true that, like, being a mom teaches you so much. It's like a lesson in nature. You can't change nature. You can try to manufacture, you can, try to, like, play with DNA and be God, like some people trying to create robots. And, I think that's the agenda. That's why they're trying to confuse, and all this cancel culture. I can't stand it. As an actor, it doesn't matter, because it really has nothing to do with your physical strength or, anything like that. But my kids are athletes. It is very different. I was an athlete growing up. I can't compete with men just because I'm built differently. I mean, I think it's very confusing, but I think they're very different, professions. And I think it's unfair for somebody who is much stronger to compete with somebody who doesn't have that skill. That's just my personal opinion, and I think my kids are very confused. I think it's a hard time for them to understand, I think we have to move forward with compassion and really integrating both parts inside ourselves. I think men, we grew up in patriarchy. We're still living in patriarchy. I think it's moving out of the picture. I think it's a different time where, after COVID and everything else, it was such an amazing lesson from Mother Earth, I would say. Mother Earth, that we do have to embrace a different kind of power, of connection, rather than domination, scarcity, all the things. If you really study, like, masculine and feminine parts of you, masculine parts are all about, like, domination, hunter, overtaking. And we do all have that, no matter who you are. And then feminine is all about connection, nurture. I think we're definitely moving into that direction, but the cancel culture created it in such a difficult place where everybody's still so bipolar and fighting over things in all kind of categories. I think my feminine nature says, like, okay, as an actor, or anybody, you have to be acknowledged as an artist, right? And we're all artists. You have to be acknowledged for who you are. It doesn't matter. But sports is very particular. Like, it is about, your weight and, like, your physical condition and your bones and things like that. And, my son is, like, taller than me 5 times, and of course he's going to outperform, It is just common sense, you guys. Come on. Like, it doesn't matter which culture you come from. It doesn't matter. But in acting, it is different because, I feel like we all have feelings. And I think that's part of the things that I've been having a conversation with my husband who runs Miramax, and, trying to be upfront in the film way in that sense, men should be allowed to have feelings. They're not just there to, to fix or, save you.
Yeah.
And not a victim as a woman. There's a different way to deal with things, and it's like being an adult.
Yeah.
And it's all psychological, very spiritual. So I think we're just moving to a different thing. And I think we have to get through all the struggles of gender issues. But I think it's very difficult for kids, because my kids are on TikTok and they see all these kind of role models, and their brain is not grown up until they're 21. So they're very confused.
Yeah. Very interesting, right? Okay, Marianne, I'm going to go to you for the same question.
I think this is a very interesting topic that you brought up. I will say this. I have a lot of friends who are transgender. And I know I have a transgender friend, her name is Nikki. She was born biologically male, and now she is a woman. And she has had everything, all operations, everything is complete. And in preparation for this question, I actually wanted her opinion. I was like, let me ask you, what is this like? How do you feel different now as a woman, whereas before you were a man? And she said, with the hormones that they give her and with the surgery and all the changes, she said, I can't even lift groceries like I did as a man. She said, it's completely different. She said, even everyday basic tasks feel different for me. And in that respect, I feel like if the hormone levels, and if they are, if someone like that's trans may want to, like a trans woman, they want to play in female sports, I feel like if the hormone levels are the same as what a woman's would be, I don't see a problem with it. I'm very much for being inclusive. I don't like people being left out or ostracized. I think love is a big deal, and I think it's very important, and kindness is a big deal. So in sports, and then you mentioned, like, were you talking about like male and female playing together as well? Is that what you were mentioning with sports?
Right, like should male and female be allowed to play on the same teams, or should they continue to be just only separate teams? Right, and what about these people who are trans or bi or fluid, or where do they fit in the sports arena, and then how do they fit in the acting?
Yeah. So with the sports, I feel like it would be maybe helpful to have some teams that have both, and some teams that remain, all male, all female.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to be inclusive. And what Eugenia was saying about the patriarchy, I agree. A lot of people were raised in that. I was. And I'm glad that society is finally breaking away from that.
Yeah.
So I think that being inclusive is very important when it comes to sports. And as far as the acting, that's a tough question. That's, like I said, these are really good questions. I agree with Eugenia that it is about talent. It's not necessarily about gender, it's about talent. And that was really interesting about the non-binary actor, and you said they weren't willing to be nominated because there was not.
They said you have to choose actor or actress, and this person said, I'm not going to be nominated until you change that. The person wanted it to just be like best, actor, and the word actor meaning actor, actress, any gender, or best supporting actor, actress, any gender, or not separate the categories anymore, because what about there's so many, people and genders now, so
I personally I like the idea of just having it as actor, and it's a broad, because Bettina, you are an actor as well, and so are you, Eugenia, and it's like all my actor friends, whether they're male or female, they're like, I'm an actor. It's a blanket statement. I'm an actor. So I think that it would be helpful and most inclusive if there were no gender requirements there.
Yeah.
And it was just solely based on talent, on the role that the actor played.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, thank you, Marianne. Now let's move on to Geoffrey and see what he has to say about all that.
So I'm gonna go to the acting. I think it should not be a gender role because it's just like Eugenia and everyone said, it's based on talent. And I think that it's too much of the stereotyping by separating. And it's so many people in the world now that are so talented and gifted. And now their platforms are so different. I don't think that it should be a gender. It should be based on how talented and gifted you are. And people see that. So that's my opinion on the acting. When it comes to the sports, I think it should be weighed, like Marianne said, when it comes to like football and basketball. I don't think that they should mix the roles. I think football is a very touchy-feely, aggressive sport. And women, because their body structure aren't designed to take massive blows or anything when it comes to that, their bones are not as strong as a man's, when it comes to endurance. And when it comes to the basketball, I'm just using these examples, it's a lot of, like I said, aggressive touching, they could accidentally be touching parts that they shouldn't. We're just being very genuine. And it could be offensive to the young lady and very uneasy for the young man. So I think it just depends on what sport they allow to cross those barriers, because it really does make a difference. So that's my opinion on both those.
Thank you, Geoffrey.
Can I add to that? So
Yeah.
sorry, I'm like so passionate about it. So I think all the words should be eliminated altogether in human nature, because just like listening to you guys, it creates a competition. And that for me is part of like separation, screw that. I think everybody, is talented. I think we all have that thing, we have it within us, and just like pitting one person against another, it just creates so much patriarchy, let's say, so much like lacking off, like I'm not enough. And then it creates politics, and it's not always, I look at a piece of art and it's so subjective. There is no way to say like, this is better than the other thing. I think it's beautiful to be artists, it's beautiful to be athletes, it's beautiful to, aspire to do something as a person, as a human, and leave your mark. But I don't think we should pit one person against another.
Yeah. I mean, I really kind of like that. Wouldn't it be cool if we had like the awards had to do with like each person getting better? Like, look how this person was like performing at the beginning of the career. And now look at the performance of this person, 10 years later. Look at the subtleties and the subtext and the nuances they're now adding to their characters. So you're comparing actors maybe to themselves from years ago, as opposed to like pitting themselves against each other. Because why the competition? It really doesn't make that much sense to me as well, but besides that, in the meantime, I do think that just having no gender differentiation would be best. But then you have to be careful about like, well, don't only make all the males win, you have to make sure that it's really everyone's getting a fair shot and a fair looked at, as opposed to, well, we're just tending to go with, white male or something, so it just becomes a little more careful. But I would like to see it go in those direction of no gender and then no competition. That's it for the acting stuff. Yeah, and for the acting, I do like to consider myself an actor these days, because I like to play all different roles and different types, and I don't want to be limited, which is going to bring us to the third question later. But I like playing all different strange, unique characters. And why say, oh, she's just an actor, that means I can only play female parts, which I want to do all the parts, and as for the sports thing, I think that is a physical issue, but it should go case by case. So depending on the sport, depending on your own physical agility. Maybe there's a way to like measure physical agility before deciding if it should be male and female on a team, or if this particular person can play on that team. So I think it should be more individual case based. That's what I think. Okay, guys, you ready for the next question?
Ready.
I came up with this question because it's something that kind of happened to me. We've been looking for a doggy, a particular doggy, a very particular breed of doggy. And we've been, led to look at different breeders. And we've been led to look at reputable breeders, ones that are approved by the AKC, American Kennel Club. And not, there's a whole list of breeders that are considered not reputable. They're like on a list. I think they're called the Horrible 100. Don't go to those, and we've had so many friends and people tell us like, don't ever go to breeders, only adopt at shelters. And just kind of, this has been on my mind, and my answer to them has been like, well, I'm vegan. I don't eat any cows, pigs, any type of animals, no meats, eggs, anything, because I want to save the animals. I love animals, I want to save them. And so I don't eat them. And I feel like that's like a big part of bringing humanity to the world, to help animals. So my question is really like, do we need to only adopt from shelters, or on occasion, is it okay to go with reputable breeders? Let's start with Geoffrey.
Okay, so my opinion on that, that's funny. My opinion on that, I think it depends on the individual. If they just want to go with breeder where they know that they're getting all the records, they know that they're not mixing the breeds, then that's on them. Then it comes to me with the shelter. Some people heart go out to people that want to go to shelter and adopt animals, because it's a place where they could have been abused, and they want to change the dynamics of how they were treated and give them love. So I just think it depends on the individual, where the individual is at, what they feel is compatible to what they want at that particular time. So that's my opinion on that.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Marianne.
Woo! I love this question.
I know you do.
I agree with Jeff that it is a personal practice. One of my biggest things is I don't like to judge people. I don't like to judge people's choices. I don't know what it's like to be in that person's shoes. Me, I have a dog that I got from a shelter about 1.5 years ago, and he is my heart. His name is Goofy, and he is very goofy. He's got giant ears. He sleeps on top of me every night. He is my little baby.
I wish we could see him.
If somebody wants to, I would love to put him on camera. That would be so fun. But he, I think it's personal. I think all animals deserve a good life, like you were saying. And so if somebody wants to adopt from a shelter, like me, that's my preference. But if someone like you're looking for a certain breed, there's nothing wrong with that either. Either way, you're giving an animal a home. Yeah. And the shelters, as much as I hate this, are probably always going to be overflowing. It's a continual problem because people don't spay and neuter their animals, and they end up, on the side of the road. Mine was a case where he was thrown out and left on a golf course. And then it's interesting you bring up the vegan aspect. I'm very interested in that. And while I am not fully vegan, because I'm just not, part of me wants to be, because I'm not much of a meat eater anyway. I mainly eat fish if I eat any type of meat. My husband's a big meat eater, but I'm not. I'll have fish, I'll have eggs from our chickens on our farm, and they're pets. They just happen to lay eggs. But it's very weird to me to imagine, when I sit down and really think about it, when you think about meat, when you think about you're eating something dead's body part, it does freak me out. It freaks me out. And what really hit this home was Friday night. Mark and I were watching, Mark is my husband, we were watching one of our favorite shows. And
What is it?
Unfortunately, it was
What's your favorite show? What is it?
Well, we are watching The Walking Dead right now. I mean,
Okay.
it is. This is one I started it years ago and I never finished it. So this was way before I met him. So I was like, honey, I know this show is old, but I want you to see it with me. So we've been watching it, and I don't want to gross anybody out, but I'm going to say there's a part in it. I don't know if anybody has seen it, where a man has his leg cut off and someone is consuming it. And I thought, that really grosses me out, because I'm thinking essentially that's what happens when I'm eating meat, and it messes with my mind.
Yeah.
It messes with my mind because we live on a farm. I have so many pets. I have cows, chickens, horses, a donkey, a mule, ducks, pigs. I mean, we have so many animals here that are pets, and it's weird because I go out there and I rub on them, I scratch them, I hug them. And then I think, okay, I'm going to go inside and cook spaghetti for my husband with some ground beef. And it feels weird.
Yeah.
It feels weird. It feels strange. And I think one of the biggest things for me would be, and they say, where do you get your protein? I know that plants are a good source of protein. But in the past, when I go a long time without certain products like fish and eggs, I'll feel weak. But at the same time, when I eat them, I feel guilty. So it's kind of a catch-22, because I don't like hurting anything. And the older I get, the worse it gets. I pick up bugs out of the house and say, I'm sorry, go outside. I see a ladybug or a little beetle, I'm like, oh, what are you doing in here? My husband's looking at me like, oh, here she goes again. I'm like, here you go, little buddy, go outside. And most people would think I'm nuts, and maybe I am. But I just love animals.
Yeah, I mean, I love animals too. They all have their own little personalities, and I mean,
It's a soul.
Yeah. So I just, haven't been vegan like a very, very long time. It's been a handful of years, but at some point it just hit me like I just can't do it anymore. And I feel I have lots of energy, and I'm not young anymore, but I make sure I get protein. It's not such a big deal, really. And someone like you, I would think, would do very well with a vegan diet, and just like in your mind be like, I'm not hurting animals, but everyone's different.
Exactly.
Everyone's different. So try to do a little bit at a time, You don't have to do it all at once. I don't know. Okay, let's hear from Eugenia on that.
Fascinating. I think you have to look at the bigger picture, where we came from as humans, being like a survivalist, where you needed to be a hunter to basically survive and cook it in the, anywhere. And now being on Earth, where there's so many options. And, I have goosebumps. Like, I think animals can speak for themselves, so we definitely have to as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And it just bugs me, the entitlement that humans have. And that's why there's so many species that are extinct, just to pollute for greed and, do all this oil rigs and things like that. I mean, I think anybody who we strive to be not abusing nature, that's all I can say. And, it's one step at a time, as you say. Like, it is maybe ingrained in our DNA to have meat and like to have energy like that. But I think the more research we put into what we put into our body and where it comes from, it's all a source of energy. And it's like, for me, it's all energy. Like, people consume others' energy as a vampiristic thing, and sometimes you get depleted being around another person. It's not food. I look at food as medicine. If I look at food as like an emotional attachment or anything else. And of course I do fail sometimes, but being a model, unfortunately it's like a different topic where you have to stay a certain weight, and that's like a whole topic about it. But just trying to like look at my body from that perspective. And I learned that food is medicine, and you can change other people. My husband eats only meat after he was vegetarian for a long time. And, you know, that's people's choices, but I think you have to make a conscious choice for yourself. And as well as like adopting animals, there's a great rescue. It's called Animal Rescue on Instagram. If you guys, you know, there's so many things to do, right? So you can't save everybody, but it's always a conscious choice. And I think it is a choice because sometimes you have small kids. So saving animals who might have aggression issue might be not the right fit for you because they're traumatized. So it really, it depends on, you know, on your situation and, you know, your family. But animals definitely need us in all capacity. You know, I work with wolves because they're almost instinct, and they come to Los Angeles and they're supposed to be shot and there's not enough shelters for them. People just don't have the awareness. I think the most important thing is like educating yourself and know that everything that you consume is energy and medicine. I think after COVID, we definitely found this out. And I think, you know, the people profit also from like no meat, right? If you look at the ingredients, I'm sorry, I'm gonna break it to you, they're toxic, okay? So my husband tried to do like no meat burgers and they're so popular. It's Los Angeles. I have a joke about being, you know, not a vegetarian, but breatharian, like I don't need food at all. But, you know, it's true. Like you go to the most popular store here, Irvine, where all the actors go, and it's like everywhere, no meat, this and that. But if you look at the ingredients, they're more toxic than anything else for you.
Yeah.
It's just a profit industry. Come on, stop it. You know, I think you have to really be conscious and be compassionate. Like you said, Marianne, you live around animals. So I think, you know, you just have to speak up for nature that can't speak for itself. And not be an asshole and be like, you know, I'm better than you and that's why I can do you.
Yeah. I mean, I try to be healthy and not eat any, you know, I don't eat any meat products, but I do have to read labels so I don't eat other garbage I might be in, or, you know, you know, I'm very careful with that kind of
Labels,
stuff.
everything. I think every person has to educate themselves on labels, talking about beauty products, fashion, what it's made of. I think this is not educated enough, you know, and people just like pass through that as much as they pass through the consent on like whatever app they sign for, and they still, you know, that your information. I think you just have to be self-educated person who is responsible for your choices, and that's it. And then don't judge their choices.
I mean, the big thing is also not to judge others. You know, everyone's doing trying to make their own way. I mean, as I said, I'm looking for a specific breed. So, you know, this is a little Shih Tzu Bichon that I'm looking for, because that's the kind of doggy that we had previously. And he, you know, we want to take him around to like old age homes again, and, you know, just hospitals and stuff like that, because he's very like, no, this breed is like, and our dog was like the sweetest little thing, you know. So you could take him places and you cheer people up wherever you go. It's, you know, so there's only specific places you can find a breed like that. So I don't know. That's kind of good. But on the other hand, like I've adopted 6 cats in my life and made donations to the Humane Society. So, you know, I'm trying to be conscious of that, you know.
There's so much shame, right, involved, especially, I don't know, it's like, oh, I donate to charity, so I feel good about myself. You know, if you give something, be responsible for that, but also don't judge anybody who does anything else.
The judging, you know, all the comments I've been hearing, don't ever buy from a breeder, but you know, there are still good ones that are not harming animals. So okay. Okay, should we do the last question? This was an interesting one to me. This is it's almost related to the first question about the authenticity of different cultures in casting for TV and film roles. Like, how important is it to make sure that like the person you're casting in a particular role is actually from that culture? How important is that? That's the basic question. I have some more to say about that later, but let's start. Who didn't we start with? The Marianne.
So I think while I feel like it's beneficial if the actor in a role can have that background, I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary. However, I do think if that person does not have that background, that it's very beneficial for them to research so they can really get into that role, get to know that culture, get to know what it's like to live in that culture. Because I feel like to fully understand the role that you're going to play, it does help to, in some sense, know how to live that. Again, I think it would be really helpful and honestly really neat if you could find somebody whose background matches what they're playing. But again, and Eugenia, you said this in the first question, it does come down to talent.
Yeah.
I think a really talented actor would be able to embody that if they do it, especially if they do the research on that culture, on what it's like to live in that culture. So I think it could go both ways.
Okay, thank you. And Eugenia, what do you have to say about that one?
I don't think you can research about that. I think people need to cast actors from their culture. Culture is something embedded. You can't fake it. You know, there's a certain acting aspect involved. And I struggle with this my whole career. You know, it's like listening to somebody like the actor from Everything Everywhere, K-Kwan. And I won't be able to pronounce his name because of his culture. It's an amazing Korean actor, and like his speech at the Golden Globes just, you know, makes me cry every time. He's saying, finally, you know, I could win an award. And he struggled his whole career. He got cast as a child actor and then couldn't work because there's just not enough roles. And finally being acknowledged for, you know, somebody coming from his culture and bringing all his ancestors and, you know, all these things. And I think Hollywood is just ignorant. You know, thank God, you know, called Guy Ritchie so many times. I'm like, okay, you have to cast a Russian as a Russian, you know, in your film. And I went to Russia to promote a film. Like, finally, I had 3 lines, but I was a Russian in his film. It wasn't a British actor playing a Russian. And I was so proud of that. You know, I don't care how big the role is, but I think it's so important to, you know, appreciate humans for their authenticity. I think there is like my friend, he manages this actor who won for Coda. He's deaf, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Troy Kotsur. And it took him many years. He had to take so many jobs. But I'm so proud of the industry to acknowledge him to win an Oscar because, you know, you can't play a deaf person. Okay, to some extent, but the authenticity of that experience, we all can feel that.
Yeah.
Same, I have to say the same about like, because I do a lot of action films, it's so important to know how to handle weapons. And that's like another subject that, you know, I bring into it. It's important, you know, because a lot of times, oh, I'm an actor, I have this toy. You know, authenticity is everything. And I think casting decisions are made out of hypocrisy and entitlement. And like, you know, who you know is not the answer. I'm sorry. You know, go to audition, go have a challenge, and don't buy your way in. You know, my friend said, never sleep your way to the middle industry, in any industry. Don't. And it takes a lot of work. And I think what happened is a lot of people are just like lazy, or, you know, they just want to cast their friends. But I think it's important. Yeah. If I was a casting director, I would fight, you know, and it's always somebody has to fight for you. Like it's an industry where there's so much things where people trying to fill their hole of, you know, like not being seen. I think that's also the thing. And it's so competitive for no reason than, you know, trying to be famous. And I hate that part about the industry. I think it's important to represent authenticity, and I'm happy to see some films that win that way, some casting directors that go for it and put their life on the line. Like my friend Matthew Berry, he's an amazing casting director who cast, you know, all Nick Cassavetes films and cast Rachel McAdams in The Notebook, who was an unknown. And he's like, I fought for her because I saw the talent. and no studio wanted to hire her because it was like
Wow.
she's not making money, she's not the name. Like I see that with studios all the time. Oh, this is the name. This is an easy way to do a paycheck. No, don't go the other way. And, I think people will relate to that, but it does take courage. It does take courage and a lot of work, a lot of lonely hours working on your skill or fighting for somebody.
Yeah. Good. Did we all go on this?
No.
Geoffrey? Oh,
Yeah. So my opinion on that, I think that when they're casting for actors, if they can find someone in their culture that can act that role, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Now, if they can't, that's why it's called acting. They go find someone that can take that role and portray as much as possible to that culture. So I just think the basic thing that I feel, if they could find someone that can act and comes from that culture, it would be more genuine and it will come off or more authentic than just allowing someone to portray someone's culture. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, gotcha. For me as an actress, I'm a little bit conflicted because I like exploring all different types of cultures and doing all types of roles, but really, I mean, I grew up in a very Jewish household, and that's my culture that have a lot of knowledge about. And so when I see film and television, I want to see a real Jewish person playing a Jewish role. And more often than not, I do not see that. And I feel like there are things that are missing that they just cannot capture. And I feel like it's particularly a problem for Jewish women. I see that they're more often than not, a non-Jewish woman is chosen to play these characters. And it's a little frustrating because I wonder, like, what about the look of a Jewish woman can they not put in, to make, what is that? There are so many off the top of my head. Rachel Bosnian and Mizell. She's not actually Jewish. Michelle Williams. I just saw that in the Fabelmans. And these are great actors, but I don't think they captured the Jewish experience, and I just don't think it's fair or right. They even had Jane Lynch playing a Jewish mother on Broadway. I mean, she's fantastic. I love Jane Lynch, but she's not Jewish, and I don't think she properly captures it. And I just think that's a general problem, that the Hollywood are not looking at a real Jewish person to play these Jewish characters. Anyway, so that's my opinion.
Wow, Bettina, I'm so floored. I never knew that. I mean, I love Jewish culture. That's where the theater comes from. When I did audition for a Jewish character, thank God they didn't cast me. I can just say that, and I did audition for Babylon for like a Polish character. And they're like, oh, say just some gibberish. And I was like, thank God they cast a Polish actor.
Yeah.
I was proud of, people actually go for the thing, but sometimes they just don't go to nuances and everything is about the details, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just hypocritical society. Now we're supposed to do this or that, and it's not organic. Like I see, now like all my blonde friends who are American, who have blue eyes, they can't get arrested. I'm like, okay, just because it's not a trend. And I noticed that in fashion as well. Oh, it's a trend to have like anorexic models, or it's a trend to do that, and I feel it's not authentic or organic to actually see beyond just the appearance.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a trend to cast actual Jewish women in Jewish roles. And that's been a problem for since the beginning of Hollywood, when they just didn't even want to put Jewish people in films at all. And they had to put a non-Jewish person in the roles. But now it's many years later. I think it's time to see what real Jewish women look like.
You show us, do one woman show. We all need to see that, because I would love to learn about
That's
it.
hilarious because I did have a one-woman show a while ago where I played 3 different Jewish women. One was like the teenager, and one was like her mother, who was like a tough lesbian character, and then her mother, who was like an old Jewish grandmother. And it was 3 Jewish women. It was called The Legacy, and that was my one-woman show many years ago. Yeah. I mean, I don't only play Jewish women, but it's just something I happen to know quite a lot about. So, when I do get cast, and I do get cast, and because I do a lot of independent films. I'm currently working on a film. I'm playing Esther, and that's a very Jewish old lady. So I do. It's not like I don't get cast in those roles. I do, but I just think in the bigger, when I'm talking about like major film and television, that's where I want to see it even more.
I think if we appreciate each other for our talent and compassion and humanity, I think without words, sometimes you look at a picture and you just are so moved, or a story. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, one culture is separated, going back to like separation of gender or anything. Like, it doesn't have to be a story about us fighting a war. That's why wars start. It has to be a human experience. I think we all have those things.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have concluded our fabulous episode today. It was just so great talking to everyone and hearing everyone's thoughts on these topics. And is there any last words or anything anyone want to say about what they're doing or anything else before I officially sign off?
Well, talking about music, I love music, you guys. I'm just curious. And, I don't like awards, but Grammys are tonight happening.
Oh.
What is your favorite music artist? Like, do you have any song that you usually dance to in the shower or sing?
Well, that's an interesting question for me because my husband is a jazz musician. He's a drummer in a jazz trio. He produces a jazz festival, and we always say they don't even have like jazz stuff on those Grammys. We're all like, where's the jazz? I mean, for me, I like more pop music, Lady Gaga or Pink. I like, that kind of poppy or rock type of stuff, but we'll see what happens tonight. Who else? Yeah, music is a great question. What do you guys have to say?
Oh, I like.
Go ahead, Marianne.
What?
I like so many weird things. Like if people went through my playlist, they'd be like, "Who in the world is this?" I've got so many. You've probably never heard of Deep Forest. It's this like new age type music. They've been around forever, but I love them. I love Enigma. But they're like new age. But then I also like Carrie Underwood. But then I also like you were saying, Lady Gaga. Yeah. And I like this and I like that. It's all over the place. And I like 80s music. And I like 90s music. It just depends what kind of mood I'm in.
Yeah.
And a lot of my songs are just plain weird, just like me.
I mean, my playlist is really all over the place too. 80s music is a big jam of mine, Madonna and all that, because it's sort of how like I grew up in that era. But yeah, I like lots of different types too. I also like rap, like really raunchy rap. Like
what about you, Jazz?
It's weird for me because I go from jazz because I grew up as a child. My dad loved jazz to I like reggae gospel because that gets me pumped up and pushes me to the next level. So I need something that's going to be like a warrior, get me going, what I need to achieve kind of spirit. So that's me. I go from, if I just want to mellow out, just put me some good jazz on and just let me meditate. And then I say, okay, I need to get these outfits done. Let me put on some hard reggae, push me. You can do it. Let's do it. Finish it, achieve it. And I'm good. That is.
I can see you. I can see you right now singing at the top of your lungs, just going at it.
I get
see you doing that.
Oh, I know the lady said, you've been there screaming because I have a doggy pet store next door. It's a used doggy pet store. She comes, she said, sometimes you're in there screaming. Who are you screaming at? I said, I'm just worshiping. I'm just singing and enjoying life. She said, oh my God, because you be screaming.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Outlet.
Because music is such a uniting topic. I feel, my dad was a nuclear scientist, and being a scientist, he always said music is the thing that goes from heart to heart without any other thing. It's like an energetic thing.
Yeah.
And I love seeing people singing in their cars in LA, when you drive and you look and someone is just really, they're not in the shower, they're in the car. They're grooving and they're in the present, I feel it's such an amazing thing. And you guys, I do love all different genres, and coming from piano school for 7 years, I love classical music as well as jazz. Adore jazz. I think it's just a fascinating thing. And any artist, I think musicians are just so precious. So no matter who gets nominated or wins tonight, I just give my heart to all the musicians out there who are doing.
That is
great.
good.
All right, everyone. I guess we'll sign off. That was super fun. And I guess I'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful night.
Good night.
Bye.